Hello everybody, my name is Herc and welcome to Horror Game Aesthetics. Today we're going to have a little chat with Michel Ziegler, the creator of Mundaun. We'll get to know him and learn some interesting stuff about Mundaun's development. I am going to interview other indie developers too in the future and turn this into a series so people could get to know these talented creators and maybe learn a thing or two from their experiences. And since this is my first interview, I apologize for any errors in advance. If you would have any suggestions, feel free to write them into the comment section. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the interview. Hello, Michael. Welcome to this interview, and thank you for being here. I'm Herc. It's very nice to meet you in person through internet. How are you?
Yeah,
How are you doing?
yeah. Thanks for inviting me. I'm well. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm fine, thank you. It's just another work day for me. I'm actually on my shift right now. Um,
Oh, okay.
yeah, yeah. So, Michelle, before we start, would you like to tell the audience a bit about yourself? Like, how old are you? What country
Mm-hmm.
are you from? How was the COVID situation been in your country, in your place? How are you in general?
Yeah, I always have to calculate. I'm 39 now,
Mhm.
and I live in Switzerland, in Lucerne, and yeah, I've been living here for 10 years or so. And the COVID situation for me personally, it's not too bad because as a game developer you can work anywhere, so I didn't really have any problems work wise. But yeah, I mean it's still been pretty tough because of there wasn't a lot of opportunities to do other things than work. It's been pretty, kind of lonely, even more lonely as it already is as a game developer, I think. So, but I really can't complain, um, since I wasn't really affected in a terrible way.
Yeah, that's good to know. It's important to stay healthy even in this situation. I consider like our people like ourselves lucky that we did not get the virus. So yeah, I really consider ourselves lucky. And yeah, like you
Yeah.
said, it's been stressful, lonely,
Hmm.
mundane, but
Yes.
but we're almost
Yes.
out.
Yeah.
All right,
Getting my first shot next week, so I'm looking
awesome,
forward to this.
awesome, amazing. So, so yeah, like you said, you're a game developer, but are you a full-time game developer, or are you currently working on somewhere else to like so-called a day job?
No, not anymore. The first period I did some other things, but I've been full time for many years now. And yeah, I think it wouldn't have been possible to make a project this big just at night, or I don't think I would ever have finished it. So yeah, I was lucky enough to be able to do it full time.
Okay, awesome. That's good to hear. And Michelle, I know you're an artist, but for how long have you been drawing actually? Did you take any classes, or is it all self-taught?
I've been I haven't I started pretty late with drawing. I was around my mid 20s, and my initial goal was to do comics. So I started from zero pretty much. And yeah, at the beginning I took some courses because when you start something new, it's always okay, what do I need? Get this course, and get this book on how to do it. And yeah, I did some things, but in the end it was just drawing all the time and drawing sketchbooks, always having the sketchbook with you and just drawing all the time, which really did the trick. I think you just have to do it, and then you're getting better at it. And yeah, it's the courses were nice, but there's no replacement really to just do it and fail and hate everything you draw, and then it starts improving, and yeah, it's kind of stuck with it because I was so into it and I really, really wanted to kind of succeed and learn to draw. And yeah, surprisingly, I kind of stuck with it for many years. And yeah, I'm very happy now because it's just a great thing, you know. Even not talking about games, it's just a very, very nice thing to be able to do, and it's very relaxing. And yeah, you kind of see the world differently if you're always looking at something and okay, what if I would draw this now? And it sounds kind of cheesy, but it's really, I can only recommend it to everybody to who's interested to kind of just get started.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I've been drawing in an amateur sense since my childhood, and I exactly know what you mean. You start looking at the world in a from a different perspective.
Hmm.
You start looking at
Yeah,
it like I can do this, I can draw this.
yeah, yeah.
It's based on your imagination, basically.
Yeah, it's like you kind of start to look at the world and see yes, you kind of see it as images, or it's just I think it's very useful for if you're in a creative profession.
Yep, yep, awesome. Yeah, it is especially better to speak with an artist too, aside from just being a game developer. But you're also an artist, and I really admire that about you. Um, so Michel, when did you truly decide on making Mundaun? Like, what was your first influence? When did that first draft come to be, and how did you take that first step? Could you tell us a bit about that whole creative process?
Sure. Yeah, I did an illustration bachelor um, pretty late in my life. I mean, pretty late sounds really dramatic, but not when I was 18. And yeah, at the end of this, I kind of started to mix the analog types of drawing with a game engine. So, and I made a little prototype game, which is called The Colony. You can even get this on itch.io for free. It's pretty rough, but it was like a first stepping stone to Mundaun as well, because it's already 3D combined with hand drawn stuff. So after I finished this and finished the illustration bachelor, I pretty much immediately started on Mundaun. And yeah, you know, I just my way of doing things is mostly just dive into it, and didn't really do a whole big concept phase. I always have to see immediately, have to see how something looks, or go for results, or start prototyping and just doing it. And so the first thing I actually did was the hayloader vehicle, the Movil, was like my first idea. So I just pretty much immediately modeled that and put it in a landscape. And yeah, and then I just started gathering ideas around this. Like, what about a game that's set in the Alps that has like elements of folklore, which is pretty dark, but also has elements like that are pretty mundane, like the hay loader. So you have to gather hay and do these other little things. Um, and having it, I was thinking about a game which was pretty open in a way. It wasn't it wasn't a corridor type style game, and yeah, it just started to build from there, and the ideas came pretty quickly. And yeah, it's I was working really intuitively and organically from this point, and just adding stuff all the time, and the game took shape like this.
I'd
I think a
assume.
pretty unusual
Yeah.
way to going about it, I guess.
Yeah, I'd assume this type of gameplay is also a gameplay type you personally like too, right? Like semi-open world with small details.
Yeah, I always loved, like, since the first games came out that had this kind of little openness to them. That's what that was a huge thing. Like, I love if something isn't completely linear. I always enjoyed that a lot.
All right, awesome. Um, so Mundaun has a very unique and distinct style. It is all hand drawn and very different from other games in the industry. You mentioned an engine, but which game engine have you used for it, and was it sufficient enough for you to fully transfer your art style into?
Yeah, it's made in Unity, and yeah, it uses pretty basic functionality only. It's Those are pretty much, the drawings are just textures which I put on the 3D objects like any other textures. And it doesn't really use any specific shaders or anything like that. It's pretty, it's pretty, technologically, it's pretty standard. And I was thinking for a time about, adding some shader magic or to enhance the drawn look of it, but that was kind of contrary to what I did. I mean, I hand drew everything and then just adding a shader which programmatically adds, I don't know, some hatching or whatever. There's a lot of shaders like this. It would have been just kind of pointless because, it's these types of effects you can't really achieve a truly handmade look because it's always a mechanical thing. And so I kind of just stuck with the pretty simple texture. Yeah. And so I didn't really use anything advanced for the aesthetic itself.
Yep, I see. So yeah, it is like you said, actually not that complicated to give the game a distinct feel, a distinct artistic look.
No.
You just have to know what to do and when to do it and how to do it. Like you would just say you should have an artistic past to be able to create these textures you mentioned.
No, I don't think so. It's so open. The whole field is so open. You can do anything. That makes it so interesting. You can really you can experiment a lot, which is so cool. It's the entry barriers are pretty low. You can get a game engine for free. You can get great tools to mess around with, and I think it's just experimentation and trying stuff that leads to interesting results. And I think um, that's what's really interesting right now. It's yeah, like, you don't need a specific background at all. You can just dive into it, and I think it's even interesting if different sorts of people with different backgrounds make games, because that's when it gets interesting. If you do stuff not necessarily by rules, or okay, this is how it's supposed to go. Oh, you need to have, like, you do your concept art, you do your this and that. But no, it's just, you can just dive in and experiment and see what happens and then react to that.
Yep, yep, yeah. What is really fascinating about the current games industry is that the indie developers can really experiment on stuff thanks to these free game engines and thanks to their different ideas. And we can clearly see that when people try different things, they really start shining brighter than others. I mean, Mundaun was clearly a sign of this. It was different from anything we pretty much seen in the indie games scene. So yeah, like you said, it is a great platform to experiment new things, try new things, and potentially be successful with those new things that you're so excited to try. Fascinating. Yeah. Uh,
Yep.
so in general, how long did it take you to fully develop Mundown? Like from the idea phase into the release, how long did it take?
6.5 years.
6.5 years.
But yeah, it's because I went the most part alone. That's what made it really long, I guess. And yeah, I mean, towards the end or in the last third, I started working with a sound designer and a musician, and then my publisher. So then the pace kind of picked up, or I was really able to bring it to a finish. But the first 4 years or so, it was really just me alone, and of course, if you can't work on it or if you're sick, then nothing gets done, and that's what makes it pretty long, I guess.
All right, yeah, it is a long process, but would you say that the game development is fun? Did you have fun while doing it?
It's you don't always have fun like on the day to day. Um, it's kind of a roller coaster if something you want to do just really works out, and you're surprised how cool it is, then it's really, really satisfying and fun. But you spend a lot of time on trying to find what causes a glitch or a bug, and yeah, there's a lot of really just repetitive and technical work to it in reality, especially when it goes towards the end, when you need to find all the bugs, you need to find all the glitches, make everything work. um like every fun feature you added earlier kind of comes to haunt you, and so when you need to make it all work in the end. And I'd say in general, I love it. I love developing games, or this game. And but yeah, it's like any other job. I think it can also be very frustrating if you're not happy with your day's work and just everything went wrong and you didn't progress, or in the worst case, you even went backwards. It all happens. And yeah, and then it can be frustrating when you feel like you're not getting anywhere. And yeah, it's I think especially when you're a solo developer, you don't really have this like other people to fall back on, or okay, can you take a look at this? I'm stuck. But I mean, that was also my choice, so I'm kind of it's my own fault a bit. So
So it,
yeah,
it
it's fun. I would say it's a great thing you can do, but yeah, it can be a real pain, and it often is.
it was a rocky journey. It has its
Yes,
ups and
yes,
downs, just like any other
yeah,
personal
yeah,
personal project, personal journey.
totally,
Yeah.
totally.
Okay. But yeah, I'm glad that you had fun in the general side of things. That's
Yeah.
at least good to know. Um, so when you were developing Mundan, or before you started developing Mundan, did you have any influences, any specific video game ideas you implemented or wanted to implement, a specific game developer you saw as an inspiration?
Not really much specific things. It's I think a lot of things found their way into the game just from my personal gaming history. from yeah, I don't know. I've been playing for a long time, and it's maybe some of the sensibilities that some of my favorite games kind of found their way. But I think it's more those are more older games, I think, or games from my should I say formative years, or I don't know. It's kind of hard to say. It's like I wanted the game to be a kind of playful and kind of approach it from an angle. It's not that serious, but more like, okay, this game, it can have elements that are fun. It can have different systems and different elements. It doesn't have to be, not every element has to be in the service of scaring you, or just not have a game that is just one note, like one, okay, it's dark, it's scary all the time, but have a car you can drive around and it's really bumpy, and kind of having the courage to try to combine things, which you wouldn't really necessarily think were in a typical horror game. And I think I heard of a lot of people, I always hear it again, that people are surprised by certain things in the game because they didn't expect they could drive a car, or I don't know. And then it kind of, that makes me feel really happy, because that was kind of like a goal for me, to kind of maybe bring back some of this more old school thing, like, I don't know, no one lives forever, or I don't know, even Mario 64, like the way the levels are open a bit. But yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of subconscious thing went in there, and when people point them out, I have to say, oh yeah, that's right. This kind of feels like the car thing feels a bit like Half-Life 2, and it's like, and it surprises me as well, because I try to work just from intuition, and by gradually making the game and building the game.
Yeah, from what you're saying, I can see that the game has basically shaped up from your passion of gaming, from the things you liked in gaming. And to be honest,
Hmm.
as someone who played and finished Mundaun, I can also say that the especially the Mufel part was very unexpected for me, because when you're today these days, when you're getting into these especially in the developed horror games, you expect to get scared. You expect the linear path in front of you, and you don't really expect to and expect a small open world, and to basically explore things. But Mundan really gave them. It had a car that you could drive.
Yeah.
It had monsters like folk monsters. It had a captivating story. All these small details just merged into a very passionate project, and it is apparent, like, really fascinating. And I'm glad that other people are surprised by these elements, and they
Yeah.
they like seeing them too.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, well, you mentioned them a bit, like Mario 64 No One Lives Forever. But what are some of your favorite video games?
um, you know, Deus Ex for sure. Just, I don't know, when I first played this, the freedom of choice, the design, the different approaches you could take, was really kind of eye-opening. And I also, when it came out, I was really into the whole world it displayed, this kind of future, kind of dystopian future, but also very grounded in reality. Just the whole lore and just the whole story combined with the gameplay was just, yeah, I just bought it. It was in a time when I didn't research a lot. I just bought it and I was like, what is this? And it was just crazy.
Yeah,
And yeah, more recently, Pathologic 2, I really loved, and mm, it's just it's the scenario of the game and the atmosphere. It's just it merges perfectly with the gameplay, like the survival gameplay. It's not just a game. Okay, it's a survival game. You need to survive. It's really the whole game. It's just the system really completely matches the story and the world that you're in, and this is really rare, I think, and it's also kind of a pain to play. It's really hard to survive, and it's I really loved it, but in the end I was so relieved when it was over because it was so stressful and long, and you have to survive another day. And but it's I really admire Ice Pick Lodge for making this game. It's so uncompromising, and it's so well made as well for a pretty small team.
Yeah, both Deus Ex and Pathologic too. They're both we could even consider Pathologic as an immersive sim. Um, but I can see that both games are providing you with a small sense of freedom, and
Mm-hmm.
they both have these small details in their worlds. I actually beat Deus Ex like 2 years ago, maybe. I
Okay.
played it for the first time, and it was a very hardcore game at first because I am so used to playing modern games today, and Deus Ex was a
Mm-hmm.
bit old school, but still
Yeah.
it was a very fun ride. And I actually tried Pathologic 2 as well. It's actually one of my favorite games in the industry right now, but funnily enough,
Mm-hmm.
I could never bring myself to play it for more than 2 hours because, like you said, it is a
Mm-hmm.
very stressful game. And
Yes.
whenever I start Pathologic 2 in my Steam library, I think to myself like, okay, I'm going to play and I'm going to beat this game this time, and I just play for an hour or two. I roam in the
Yeah.
town a bit. People start chasing me around, and I'm like, okay, this is
Yeah.
stressful. I'm going to play this game in a more free time. Okay, I
Yeah.
will wait for some kind of a vacation to play, but I've been waiting
It's
for that time for years now, and it's
yeah,
it's not coming.
it's very paradox, you know. It's
Yeah.
it's almost it works too well. The way it makes you feel. It's like yeah, it works too well. So it's I can imagine already when you're hovering over the icon like being stressed and really not wanting to do this. But that's because it works exactly like it's supposed to.
Yep.
Pretty crazy.
Yep.
Other games I really like, just I like Fallout 3 a lot. Um, just the world. I think the world in of a game is always kind of really important to me, more so than the story. Just I think Bethesda really does the story, telling smaller stories inside their worlds super well. Pretty much like no other, I would say. And a really old favorite of mine is the first XCOM. I don't know if you know it. It's really the old PC one, and the remake, not the remake, but the reimagining is really great from a gameplay view. But the first one had this really dark mood to it. Just um, it was almost like a horror game. It's when you had to go on these missions, and the music, this crazy MIDI music came in. I really felt scared to go there, and um, I think this was kind of lost a little bit in the remake. I don't know if it's because it's technologically much more advanced. Like almost it's this like the effect that many horror games, like the newer super shiny ones, kind of lose something that the older ones have. This
Yeah.
kind of raw vibe.
Yeah, that's
It's
that's what I was going to say. In the remake, the color palette has changed,
yes.
and the graphics are more clear, so you're not really afraid of the unknown because when it comes to these alien stuff, the alien horror.
Hmm.
You're basically afraid of the unknown, and the
Yes.
classic XCOM really managed to give that sense of horror.
Yeah. Yeah, I can still feel it. Like if I think about it, we landed in a city at night, and you hear screams, but it's really dark. And then it's just every time you walk into a house with one of your soldiers, it's like, please, no, none of the bad aliens now, because yeah, because they were really low. It's like pretty pixelated, but so scary. These kind of flying discs or the other aliens. Yeah, because they were so low resolution, your mind went places. And now if you see this in the new one, you see the alien like in all its glory, super nicely modeled. It's not really scary.
Yeah, and yeah, they're a bit funny looking, so to
Yeah.
speak. They just become regular enemies after a while.
Mm-hmm.
They're not
Mm-hmm.
scare factors anymore. Yeah, I know
No.
what you mean. Um,
Yeah.
is that all? Do you have other games?
GoldenEye was a pretty big one for me. I spent a lot of multiplayer matches with GoldenEye. And also the campaign had some really cool maps with also again with they had some degree of openness. You had your objectives, but they were on different places on the map. And even just being able to do them in different order already made it much more interesting, and you feel much more agency and much more immersed.
Yeah, I had never had the chance to play that for myself, but I heard and watched a lot about it, and yeah, I can truly see some of the influences for you. Um,
Yeah.
so going back to Mundaun again, uh, if you could change something about Mundaun today, uh, what would it be? Is there something like that? Do you have any regrets about the game?
Not really, because the kind of the way it was built and the way it evolved, it was just a series of decisions you have to make, and it's clear oftentimes, it's you kind of doubt your decisions and should I've taken a different path there, but at the same time you really realize that you can't just go back and change it again, and because because it's just too much work. Everything you want to add or implement is just a big process. So you don't really have the flexibility to just feel like, no, I want to change this. Because at certain points, it's really hard. You already kind of designed your level around something, or you already have implemented all these interactions. And I kind of learned during the making of this game, kind of where to kind of let go of things. And there's certainly stuff which I would like to improve, or which I think can be improved. Like some, I don't know, some paths inside the levels, or I don't know, some enemy placements, stuff like this. But there comes a time when you have to kind of say, okay, this is good enough. And it's pretty interesting that oftentimes when I was really in my head, I said to myself, no, I need to change this here. And you can get really obsessed about something, like a pretty small thing, like, okay, no, this enemy needs to face there, or I have to move it a bit. And then when you take all the pain that brings to change that, because you need to test everything pretty much again, and then you see, okay, it's not really an improvement, it's just slightly different. And this, I kind of learned to, I don't know, pick my battles a bit, and also to accept things. And so it's kind of hard to now pick something apart, say, okay, this or that, because yeah, it's just um every time when I tend to think about, oh, this should be improved, I can also point out many things which are really good, and so certainly no regrets. And maybe I'm taking some lessons for a next game on maybe approaching stuff differently or doing this differently, in a way to keep some more flexibility for longer. But as I don't know, it's probably just things just happen, and things are just get the way they get. It's sometimes it feels like almost out of your control in a way, and there's some momentum the game is going, and just kind of try to steer, and yeah, it's kind of a weird thing because it gains so much momentum.
Okay, all right. Yeah, it is good to know that you pretty much accomplished everything you had imagined in the game. And like you said, of course, there are things to learn, there are things to add, but like you said, it seems like you have a new project in mind, a future project, a new game, and I am excited to see those new ideas.
Yeah, I don't have anything specific yet, but it's now this project is pretty much done. The brain starts to slowly think about what could be next. And yeah, I mean, over the years, I've wrote some stuff down, and I have to look at it and see if there's a game in there, or yeah, it's really exciting. It's after all this time, you kind of to be finished with the project. It's really weird because it's been a big part of my life for so long. You never really dare to think about the time after it, but the time seems to come now, and yeah. But first, probably I'm taking a bit of a break and kind of recharge my batteries a bit, and yeah, start from scratch, I guess.
Awesome, awesome. And you're also working on a Switch port right now, right?
Yes, the Switch port is done, and it's really cool. We spent quite a lot of time on it, and it was really worth it.
Mhm.
We did a lot of additional optimizations for it, and yeah, honestly, I wouldn't have imagined for this port to be so good, because when we started, it was pretty rough, and it seemed really, for a time, it seemed like almost impossible to bring Mundaun to the Switch in in a way which I can say, yes, that's the game as it should be. But yeah, it just took work and optimization and fighting for every millisecond. But yeah, I'm really happy with the result, and it's one of my favorite ways of playing the game, like chilling in bed under the blankets with the game. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, same. That's what I was going to say. I also have a Nintendo Switch, and the favorite thing about the console is that before you sleep, when you're in that mood to read some books, to watch something, you could just turn on the console and just play a game. And playing a horror adventure game like
Yeah,
Mundaun, it will certainly feel very good. And I'm glad that the optimization and everything really works fine. Uh,
yeah,
I think I am going to play Mundaun on Switch
cool.
too.
Yeah, no, it was really important to
Mhm.
make a really good version. I'm always very worried, about having to make a lot of compromises, like making texture quality low, or and having a lot of slowdown, and this is kind of the kind of stuff which really stresses me when I think about it, and it's like, oh, what if we can't get it there? But it's now after it was some months of work now, but the textures are really, really crisp and sharp, and they look so cool on the Switch screen, and it plays really smooth. And yeah, it was a huge relief. This was like the last big thing that stressed me out.
Yeah,
And yeah.
I think it's great that you considered Nintendo Switch as a platform too. Most game developers just skip it due to
Mhm.
some technical restrictions or the fact that the console, they think that the console isn't as popular as other platforms, but I can safely say that Nintendo Switch is a very popular console and it's going
Yes.
to get even bigger after this point. So yeah, I am very glad to see that you considered it as a
Yeah.
platform for your game, and I'm
Yeah.
sure that it's going to do great on Switch. Um,
Yeah.
so going back to some darker topics, at any point during Mundaun's development, did you think about canceling the project? Like, has it ever been overwhelming for you? Did you ever get to that point like, okay, this is not going anywhere. I have to stop this project.
Mhm.
This isn't happening. Like, did that ever happen to you?
I did get overwhelmed. There were really periods or times when I was completely overwhelmed, and it just seemed like endless. You know, when I had my to-do list, um, it's like maybe say in the middle of the project, the to-do list was just for every item I crossed off, there was two new items. And yeah, if you have a day where I don't know, for not every day you feel you have the same energy, and then looking at this list, things to do, yeah, it can really be overwhelming. And there were really times when I thought, oh, I just took on too much. I wanted too much. I should have limited myself, or just yeah, I should have been smarter and have have planned a smaller game. And these moments, they came from time to time during development. But as for really, really quitting, I never I never thought about quitting, because it wouldn't have made sense, you know, because if I spent so much time on it, it was always clear that I was going to finish it, um, like no matter what. Or I was certainly not just going to quit. Just yeah, it just wouldn't have made sense. Um, but yeah, it's it's pretty stressful. It's you have to kind of manage or kind of protect yourself from some stuff. Um, I was pretty early in the project. I wasn't really active on social media at all, which I think was good, because it can also stuff like that can be kind of it can be really inspiring, but it can also be like, oof, look what they do, and look, I'm nowhere in this game. I'm nowhere with my project. And I think in this moment it's really important to kind of also protect your own sanity and not compare yourself. And yeah, it's it's pretty taxing, I think, mentally, because there's always so much stuff on your mind, and you should actually be able to concentrate just on the game itself, but there's also so much other things which you need to which you need to take care of, or which is important, like, I don't know, financially, how is this working, or when is it finished, and people asking when is it finished. And yeah, it's a journey. It's a journey, but I was really lucky that the game itself, I was always so motivated to kind of shape this world and create this game. So I was really happy to never have doubts from that perspective. It was always clear that this is worthwhile and this is the game I want to make.
Yep. So fresh developers, as you can see, with a clear dedication, you can do this. You can uh, create your imagination in a video game. Just need a dedication, and like you said, you really shouldn't get demoralized by seeing other people's projects or by seeing some comments on social media. If you have your goal in mind, if you have the dedication, you will find the motivation. It's just like any other project. You have good days and bad days, and then
Mm-hmm.
I'm really happy that you carried on with Mundaun, and it's clear that you got over these bad days by clear dedication
Yeah.
and motivation, but by what you're seeing in your project. Yeah, amazing stuff. So on that note, again, we know Mundaun was received pretty well by the indie horror scene, and it got a majority of people's attention. At least that's what I observed. But was it as you expected? Like, how did you expect Mundaun was going to do? Did it exceed your expectations? Did you, for example, make enough money from it? Did you like what you spent for this game? Did you have it back? Was it as you expected? The success was it good for you?
It's pretty interesting because when I started or pretty late in the project, I never really thought about this aspect. Like, okay, I want it was never really important for me. Um, it was always okay. This is my project. This is kind of my baby. I want to make this, and this was always the motivation. But closer to release, and then on release, the kind of expectations kind of came. Like then you would then you kind of hope or really hope that people are seeing it after you I don't know spend so much time on it. And so yeah, it was a really weird time after such a long development, and I really didn't know what to expect. And yeah, I was really surprised and in a positive way about how many publications picked it up or wrote about it. I didn't really expect to have such broad coverage, I would say. Yeah, it's like you don't know. You really just don't know what happens when you put it out. It could just go under, or and that's kind of the big fear that you put it out and it's just nothing at all happens. So I was really grateful for the reception it got and the all the positive things that people wrote about it. And yeah, I mean, as for financially, it will need it needs some more time to be able to recover the expenses because it's the soundtrack of the game is pretty substantial. Um, I didn't only have to pay living costs for myself, but um, my collaborators, I wanted to give them a fair and good salary for their services. So for Michel Barango, the musician who did a great soundtrack, and Eric Lawrence, who did amazing sound design. So no, the game wasn't really. I mean, it wasn't a huge budget, but it wasn't like cheap or free to make. So there's some costs which need recouping, and yeah, but I think the game. I really hope, and I think the game has more appeal than just being um, just being the flavor of the month. I never really wanted it to be, really never thought of it as a game that wants to find a trend or be just, okay, this is now trendy. It was really, it's kind of a timeless thing for me, I think. And I really hope that the game will have a long life. Um, and yeah, sell copies for a long time, hopefully. And I think it's very possible because it is, I think it's pretty unique and probably will remain pretty unique for a long time. And yeah, I'm really hoping for the best and hoping for, yeah, hoping for it to do really well.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is like you said, very unique, and a lot of publications have really picked up on it. Mundaun really reminds me of that one game. What was its name? Uh, Return of Obra Dinn, I think. Whenever people mention that game, since it's been years since its release, but whenever people mention that game, they always mention that it has a distinct art style.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty good adventure game. So the distinct art style really helps, and I think Mundan will be remembered for years and years to come just by the art style. And on top of that, it has the amazing adventure elements. It has an um, unexpected horror to it because you don't see much of these folk tales in horror games, or maybe you see them, but you don't see them as how to put this, as natural as Mundown. Like you don't use a movel in them. You don't
Yeah,
really roam around the fields.
yeah.
They're mostly focused on scaring the player. But your game is more like a cultural journey, even for someone that doesn't know those parts of the world, they can
Mm-hmm.
go in and see some of those parts and get fascinated by them. It's like I said, it's like a natural journey, and I think Mundown is going to be remembered just by these things and many more.
Yeah, let's hope so.
Yep.
I mean, at least for the movie, for the movie.
Yeah,
It's
for the movie.
it's really cool. People really love that car, and
Yeah, yeah, I did.
it's really cool because that's really that was really the first thing I had for the game because I always really loved these, just the vehicle. And yeah, it's sometimes it's worth it to really start from something pretty specific or weird, I guess.
I would assume it is movable, but jokes aside, what is your favorite part of Mundown? What do you like about the game most?
I think I most like certain scenes or certain moments in the game, certain moods. Um, just because they were often kind of um, the fixed points in the game when I made it, like the puzzle piece, some of the puzzle pieces, and yeah, I designed a lot of things around certain moods or yeah, just I don't know, little scenes or little sequences which I think just really work well. And when I play the game and when I'm in them, for example, the studio of the painter and the music's playing and there's the waterfall through this window, and this I just really love when this kind of place kind of feels like alive, and I really love to go there, and that's I'm really happy with things like that because that's always what I enjoy or what I respond to in games are kind of places where the just to be in and they feel interesting or immersive. And when I get to them in Mundown, it's I feel like I succeeded in what I wanted to do there.
Yeah, it feels like you created yourself an interactive artwork that you can also enjoy looking at. Yeah. That's good to know. I think my favorite thing about Mundaun is that too, because I myself, like to take screenshots and videos from the games, and what I like the most is that static is those static moments, like you stay in a place and you just watch the scenery. You hear the birds chirping. You hear the
Yeah,
you hear the scenery basically. You watch what's going on in the scenery, and you just you know take it all in. I think
yeah,
that's one of the strongest parts of Mundan, and I agree with you on that.
yeah, totally. That's where this also where the sound design comes in. It's just a really, really great and just complements the visuals. And yeah, there's some great spots to just stand there and yeah, just be there for a moment.
Eerie, dreadful, and natural.
Yeah.
Um, so this is more for new developers, for fresh developers. I think people are very curious about these in general. So during a game's development process, uh, what can people do to help developers? I know Steam wishlisting certainly helps your game become
Mm-hmm.
more popular on the platform, but other than
Mm-hmm.
that, what can people do to help developers?
Um, yeah, that's a good question. Um, just I think sharing content or videos or screenshots on social media, just spreading the word. And yeah, as you said, as soon as there's a Steam page wish list, so it can get some visibility when it releases. And yeah, I don't know. There's people who have Patreons, which there's people who are developing a game pretty long term and try to finance or try to make it work in that way. There are Kickstarters coming up sometimes. Yeah, I mean it's a good question. I think the most important thing is just kind of spreading the word, trying to, if you like something, to just push it and share all the time. And yeah, and if it's out, leave a Steam review.
Yeah,
Yeah,
in
it's
its essence, what they need to do actually is free and takes so little time. And as far as
yeah,
I know, wishlisting a game on Steam carries it to the front page, right?
yeah,
Or the
yeah. I think
first
it's
pages.
it's gonna be in the up. I think that influences the if it appears in the upcoming games thing, and then new and trending. And but I'm not really a huge expert on Steam. This happily I handed off some of these things to my publisher. And but yeah, it's crazy. It's like as a developer today, you need to know so much things. Just not only about game development, but about everything else, like kind of a little bit how Steam works, or yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, you have to know stuff about social media, Steam,
Yeah.
other platforms. I always personally urge people to wishlist games and share and talk about games
Hmm.
because it really helps developers. It motivates them. It helps them,
Yeah.
cover their expenses. But I think wishlisting is especially important on Steam, and really people should do it
Mm.
more. And what I realized from developers, when they approach me to promote their games on my Twitter profile, and I mean, as you know, I do this for free. I don't ask for anything. They're
Hmm.
usually very hesitant to do it because they think that I will ask for something,
Hmm.
or I will, criticize their game. But
Hmm.
I just take it, I just share it, and
Yeah.
that's it. I think people are uh, before these games release, before these games, take a place in people's libraries, I think people tend to criticize these games a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That might be affecting their confidence or the game's
Mm-hmm.
publicity in a negative way. And I hope that people are going to be more considerate about these stuff
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
in the upcoming times, because game
Yeah,
development
it's
is like being an artist, and you
yeah.
really need the all the motivation you can get
Yeah.
from shares, from
Yeah,
comments, from
it's like
yeah.
yeah, when you make something you're really vulnerable to any bad comments, you know. It's I think even now I'm still pretty new to it, but if I read something bad, even if it's kind of stupid, and somebody says this game is ugly, it kind of still it still kind of hits me in the stomach, even though I know it's not true. And but you know, you really are kind of really emotionally really kind of vulnerable, I think, or at least I am in a way, because you're always kind of thinking, I don't really know what I'm doing, and you kind of, you know, a lot of game developers are people we didn't really necessarily make do a game development course or study it or anything, and then it's always like, is this what I'm doing? Am I doing this correctly? Or and yeah, then you're really kind of vulnerable, and I can really see people being kind of afraid to putting stuff out, because yeah, it can be a really harsh place, and some people are really so inconsiderate, and instead of, if they don't enjoy something or don't like something, they feel the need to kind of comment in a negative way. Yeah, it's still kind of baffling to me, because I would never do that. If I don't like something, I just don't engage with it. And yeah, it's sometimes it's pretty crazy, you know, to see some of the some of the comments. And yeah, I can really sympathize with that. It's that's why I waited so long with even going on social media. But at the same time, now I think it's really helpful and really important. And I think that's another skill to kind of learn and get better at as a developer, is just taking the courage to put the stuff out there and take in, you know, take in all the good comments, and take in the positivity, and kind of be able to just ignore, just, you know, comments that are just coming from a bad place. And yeah, and yeah, but it's hard, you know. It's even especially if you're making something pretty personal, which I think a lot of indie developers are. Yeah, and I hope one day I hope that my hide will be so thick that I really just don't don't care anymore. But I don't think this ever happens. I think we'll always be kind of vulnerable
Yeah,
in a way.
we are emotional creatures, and especially for
Yes.
an artist, okay, you always get positive comments, but whenever you get a negative comment, just one negative comment,
Yeah.
you get fixed on it, because you have to
Yeah.
think about that. You have to think about, okay, why can't I win this person right now?
Yes.
But
Yes.
it is social media, and people sometimes just criticize to be critics, and
Sure.
you really can't do anything to
Yeah. It's just it's not rational anymore. You know, you
yeah.
can really identify this person like, yeah, you know, that's not even real criticism. That's just kind of a hater thing. And but still, you kind of forget like the 10 positive things you heard, and now it's just this negative. And then you feel bad again for even taking this on board. Like why am I not above this? And yeah, it's a whole thing, you know. It's
Yeah,
social media does weird things to the brain, I think.
Yeah, it's like a learning curve when you're out of that first development loop and now you've developed your first game and you released it. You pretty much know about all of the social media stuff now. You know why people make negative comments, or how can you
Hmm.
get actual constructive criticism from people.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think this is important for fresh developers to know, because I know for a fact that a lot of them get get discouraged by these comments. And like you
Hmm.
said, they usually start these projects by getting inspired by their personal experiences, like a close
Hmm.
relative dies, some bad sickness happens, it might be tied to their depression, their personal
Hmm.
issues. It might just be something random too, but they generally stem from their personal experiences. And seeing people or hearing people, making nonsense negative comments and not
Hmm.
making constructive criticism really hurts these fresh developers. And
Hmm.
yeah, I think people like you that are speaking openly about this really helps these developers. Yeah. On that note, again, do you have any other advice for these fresh or future indie game developers?
It's really hard to kind of give advice. It's always I don't. Sometimes I think it's not really helpful, and a lot of advice I see is kind of from people who were huge successes, and I think then it's really easy to give advice. But this I I would say just make things, or but I think that's true for everything. It's just learn by doing, and just I don't know, just dive into it in a way. And if you feel inspired or motivated, yeah, it's probably people are pretty different. And yeah, I think in relation to the last question, it's kind of don't be discouraged, don't kind of dwell on social media, or look, I'm nowhere near the people here that get the many retweets and likes. It's like important to not compare, because I think the people who are getting these huge I don't know interactions are people who have been doing this for a while, and they really built something, and they aren't new necessarily to this. And
Yeah, yeah. We all start
yeah,
from somewhere. Yeah.
yeah. And my first, when I would have shared my first screenshot from my game on Twitter, would have been or compared with stuff on there, it's I think I would have immediately stopped and just thought, no, I can't do this. My stuff looks just bad and compared to what I see here. But it just needs to grow, and it just needs time to just take your time. I think um, it's important to realize that you can't just create something super good just on your first try. And kind of important to be kind with yourself, and yeah, allow yourself time to learn. And yeah,
I
yeah,
see.
it's that's like the only thing I could maybe say. But yeah, I mean, it's really cool the things you do, like sharing all these games, really to a very specific audience which enjoys these types of games. It's just is a really cool thing, and I think can be a very big boost to people as well. And
Yep, doing everything we can.
yeah.
Uh, all right. I'm pretty sure these fresh developers will be happy to hear your points about this. Personally. Uh, so that those are basically the questions I had in mind. But So the Switch version of Mundaun is now out. You can just go ahead and play it. Would you like to say anything about that, or would you like to say anything further? Would you like to add anything to promote anything? The stage is yours now.
Yeah, it's the game just came out on Switch,
Mhm.
which is the last console port we did. So now it's out on pretty much all the platforms, all the consoles, Steam, Epic, GOG. Yeah, and I think this pretty much finishes my journey with this game. And yeah, we already did some patches, and I think it's in a really good state now. And yeah, personally, I'm looking forward to kind of rest a little bit, and then yeah, see what's next.
Then when can we expect your new project to at least to see it, to know about it?
Yeah, this probably, I don't know. I really have to think about everything. Like, will it be just me starting out solo again, or do I want to work with somebody from the beginning? Um, like, and also how early will stuff be shared? I mean, one thing to do would be just to share everything from the start, but that's kind of might be interesting just to see the process, but at the same time might also wait until something kind of is a bit more definite or a bit more developed. Yeah, I really don't know. I also have to think about what type of game I would like to do. Um, but I think it will be kind of the philosophy, I think, that also guided Mundaun, which will probably not change completely. This the type of game that interests me is still similar. But yeah, I'm also going to really start from scratch and think about, yeah, it's like because it's there's so many options. It's I'm really hoping that I that I will be calm enough to really take my time and not to rush into something. Yeah.
Yep, yep. I'm hopeful for that, and best of luck to you with that next project. I am excited to see it. But yeah, like you
Thank
said,
you.
take your time, enjoy
Yes.
Mundown, and
Yes.
yeah, yeah, best of luck. So that'll end our interview unless you got something else to add.
No, I don't think so.
We're good. Okay. Well, that's the interview. Thank you again for joining me with this. This was also my first interview. I am sorry if there were any mistakes, any mishaps, but
No,
yeah,
it was really nice. It was my pleasure, and
thank you.
thanks again for having me.
Thank you. It was amazing. I enjoyed it personally, and like you were the first person I approached about this because Mundown was really an interesting and important game for me because like I said before, I was an amateur artist. I'm saying I was because I haven't been drawing for more than a year now. I was basically sharing my works on Instagram and uh, didn't get any recognition by them. I was just
Hmm.
so demotivated. But
Yeah,
seeing Mundown, I even thought about maybe I can make a game myself. Maybe I can try to start learning
yeah,
some Unity and stuff. So it was personally very important for me to
cool.
talk to you. And yeah, again, thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you too.
All
Thanks.
right, then I'll see you later.
Yeah,
And
talk
best
to
of
you
best
later,
and
and
best of luck.
yeah,
Yep.
yes, to you too. Thank you.
Well, folks, that was the interview. Hope you enjoyed. Michel was a great guest, and I wish him success in Mundaun's Nintendo Switch release. If you haven't tried Mundaun yet, I strongly recommend you to do so. It's easily one of the best indie horror games of all time. Definitely give it a shot. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!